Hey, what is up you guys? My name is Shelby. Welcome back to my channel. And today on Drink But Think, we're going to be talking about face masks. And so today we're actually going to cover two studies, the first of which covers the efficacy of surgical masks and the second which covers the efficacy of cloth or fabric masks. But first, let's pop one open, and get into it. I wanted to talk about the possible avenues of transmission for the coronavirus. So pictured here is the coronavirus itself. It is 0.12 micrometers long, and just remember that the UM is micrometers, also known as microns, and I'll be referencing that throughout this video. Coronavirus is what's known as an acute respiratory illness, and so it can be transmitted one of three ways. The first is through direct or indirect contact when you touch a surface that somebody has coughed on and then you touch your face, or it can be transmitted through respiratory droplets or what is known as fine particle aerosols. And at first, I didn't know that those second and third things were different at all, but they apparently are. And the big difference is really just size. So an aerosol is less than 5 micrometers, while a droplet is greater than 5 micrometers. And that can have effects on how far the coronavirus can be transmitted inside of the droplets. So right here, I have a little picture to kind of describe this. So a droplet under the forces of gravity would only make it about a meter if you're just talking normally and breathing it out of your mouth, while a respiratory aerosol would actually travel a much longer distance because it is much lighter and it wouldn't succumb to the forces of gravity quite as quickly. And this all kind of changes though when you're coughing or you're sneezing, because you can imagine that that adds like a certain velocity forward and will increase the distance that any droplet can travel regardless of its size. So why do we care? Well, coronavirus, as I mentioned, is a respiratory illness, and so wearing masks can actually be effective at reducing the transmission of the coronavirus. And we have a lot of masks on the market now, ranging from the N95 to the surgical mask and to the cloth mask. We know that the N95 can filter particles greater than 0.3 micrometers. The surgical mask can filter particles greater than 5 micrometers, and cloth masks, it is generally unknown what size particle they can filter. Alright guys, so the title of our first paper is The Respiratory Virus Shedding and Exhaled Breath and Efficacy of Face Masks. It was first authored by Li Young, and it was published April 3rd, 2020, so really recently, and it had two purposes. One, how is coronavirus transmitted? And two, are surgical face masks effective in stopping this transmission? So this study was conducted by taking 17 confirmed coronavirus patients and then splitting them into two groups, either the mask or the no mask. And then they were put in this weird machine, which is called a G2 aerosol collecting device. So you breathe into it for 30 minutes, and then it takes your exhaled air, it captures it, and it filtrates it, so you have the aerosol portion and then the droplet portion. Their results are pictured right here. So on your x-axis, you can see the groupings. So first we have droplet particles without a mask, droplet particles with a mask, aerosol particles without a mask, and then aerosol particles with a mask. And then on your y-axis, you would have viral copies per sample, or how much of the coronavirus RNA was present in that breath collection. And these are really interesting results because there was a non-significant difference between the droplet particles without a mask and the droplet particles with a mask, but there was a more significant difference seen between the aerosol particles without a mask and the aerosol particles with a mask. This graph shows you that when participants are not wearing a face mask, the coronavirus was identified in 30% of respiratory droplets and 40% of aerosols collected. However, 0% was identified while the participants were wearing a mask. So overall, this study concluded that aerosol transmission is a possible mode of transmission for coronavirus, but also that wearing face masks, particularly surgical masks, can reduce the transmission of the coronaviruses through respiratory droplets and in aerosols. And ever the skeptic, there are definitely some issues with this study. So they had a really small sample size of n=17, and that decreases your statistical power. In addition, a lot of the patients in their exhaled breath had undetectable viral shedding, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense and makes me question the legitimacy of their methods. And then finally, they tested a version of the coronavirus, but not particularly COVID-19, but a seasonal version, and that makes you wonder if it would apply to COVID-19 in the same manner. And moving on to our second study, this study is entitled Aerosol Filtration Efficiency of Common Fabrics Used in Respiratory Cloth Masks. So the first author on this paper is Konda, and it was published April 24th, 2020. This study took a number of fabrics and then blasted them with nanoparticles to see which were retained by the mask and which went through. And this is our first graph right here, and you can see that on the x-axis we have the particle size, which ranges all the way from 0.01 micrometers to 10 micrometers. And remember that the respiratory droplets are greater than 5 micrometers, and then the aerosols are less than 5 micrometers. And then on your y-axis, we have filtration efficiency. So if your filtration efficiency is 1, you're getting 100% of the nanoparticles stuck in the fabric rather than passing through. So one of the fabrics they tested was cotton, and they tested it in 3 different forms. So the first was quilt, the second was 600 TPI or threads per inch, and then the third was 80 threads per inch. And from this graph, you can see that the higher the thread count or the higher the thickness, the higher the filtration efficiency. They went on to test flannel, silk, and chiffon because those fabrics are kind of the opposite of cotton. So if cotton can stop particles mechanically, then silk, flannel, and chiffon are known to stop particles through electrostatic interaction. And this filters out particles under 0.3 micrometers. This next figure is meant to test the efficacy of hybrid fabrics. So that takes the mechanically filtering cotton with the kind of electrostatically filtering silk or flannel or chiffon and combining them to see if that increases filtration efficiency. And they do show that here. So we have particle size on the x-axis as before, and then filtration efficiency on the y. And they compare it to an N95 mask, which we know filters particles greater than 0.3 micrometers, but in general, we see that a hybrid fabric can be a very efficient way of filtering out particles at a wide range. And so the major conclusions of this paper were that higher thread counts will generally provide higher filter efficiencies, and this makes sense because there's smaller pores for the particulates to go through, and then multiple layers of fabric will also result in higher filter efficiencies. But I think the most interesting result is that if you combine a mechanical fabric like cotton and then an electrostatic fabric like silk, you're going to have this combined effect where you can filtrate the entire range of particulates at a very high efficiency. And ever the skeptic, my biggest issue with this paper is that it doesn't test the transmission of the coronavirus specifically, but just of particulates. And we really don't know whether the transmission of particulates relates to the transmission of a virus. And so given that pile of information, you're probably wondering, should I wear a mask? Now, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I think that I provided a lot of strong evidence in support of wearing both surgical masks or cloth masks to reduce the transmission of the coronavirus. Now, we already know that certain people who have the coronavirus are asymptomatic, so they might not even know that they have it. And finally, I just think that you should also remember that there are tons of anti-contagion measures that we should be taking, such as washing our hands, using hand sanitizer liberally, and just social distancing in general. And you can be optimistic, but you always have to be realistic. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciated it. Tell me your thoughts down below in the comments, and don't forget, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.